If you're anywhere between your 30s and your 60s, tell me, how is midlife treating you? I'm asking because for the next 6 months, I'm hoping you might join me online for a magnificent midlife mutiny. Perhaps not the first word that leaps to mind when you think about midlife, the magnificent bit that is. I'm noticing personally some extra wrinkles since I last took a fresh profile picture. Maybe you are too. Or like me, you might at times be finding midlife to be pretty brutal. Maybe you're in that perfect storm of parenting. You've got demanding kids, your aging parents are getting a bit frailer at the same time. Or perhaps you've lost somebody through relationship breakdown or divorce or death. I lost a friend at 50, and as I'm 55, that pretty much sharpens perspectives. Or maybe you are doing pretty well. Things are outwardly shipshape, even quite impressive. But you sometimes feel a bit hollow and adrift. And I meet a lot of that among my clients. Or perhaps you just do anything just to get it to a safe harbour. Maybe you're also noticing that I'm using lots of nautical metaphors and wondering, why the heck's this guy talking about mutiny and what's that got to do with midlife? So maybe I should tell you. So I'm passionate about navigation in a number of senses. I used to earn my living as a travel writer, literally navigating across oceans. But I can honestly say that the hardest and the richest voyages that I've made have been in these tricky middle years. And because as a coach I now specialise in transitions, midlife in particular looks really different depending how you frame it. Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst, spiritual seeker, all-round rock star if you ask me, believed that what many of us experience as a crisis can ultimately be an opening into much truer versions of ourselves. So instead of rinse and repeat till you die, midlife's kind of a doorway, which is exciting, right? We're not in this slowly draining harbour, but heading out onto the open ocean, a whole new horizon, as we shift away from fulfilling just the expectations of others to finding new meaning and purpose in the world while we've still got time. So that's the mutiny I'm talking about. That's what really excites me about midlife. But my own experience is that this is really hard. It costs you sometimes the approval of others, particularly if you've been a bit of a pleaser all your life. People don't really like it when you start to follow your own heart, stop being who you're supposed to be, and start being who you really are. And that's why having the company of others on the course can be so transformative. So I've called this course Second Wind, Navigating the Magnificent Mutiny of Midlife. So what's actually in the course? Well, on the wall behind me, you can hopefully see I've come up with a kind of map, or at least compass, for some recurring themes I've noticed in midlife. And each has a particular energy and sea creature attached to it. And I'm offering these with playfulness, a pinch of salt, but they're the product of like 1,500 hours of coaching clients and also talking to friends and family, and they seem to resonate. Each of the archetypes has got superpowers and a shadow side. You can read more about this wherever you've picked up this video, but as an example, the one that I'm really big on is the albatross archetype, the wayfinder, who's really great at connecting loads of different ideas, got this 360-degree view of the world, keeping the big picture basically. So I like to draw on those powers of vision and strategy and imagination. But on the shadow side, I really struggle when it's time to actually land and commit to laying one egg and just doing one thing with focus all over the place. Whereas focus is what the salmon is better at. This is the commander, got that superpower of narrowly striving up waterfalls to the spawning ground, full speed ahead. But of course, salmon usually die at the top of the waterfall, and actually in the same way, the shadow side of this strive energy is that we can become exhausted, burnt out, a little bit blinkered. So I was in full-on striving mode when I burned out myself in my 40s. I just couldn't force myself to type another word in the book that I was writing. And I realised that willpower at that point is not actually a sustainable resource. It's a bit like oil. And so then I had to start with my resistance, this stubborn crab-like energy, some boundaries that might look like, some groundedness. And this is often what alerts us to the need for change. And often clients come to me with this kind of bewildered sense of like, why can't I force myself to do stuff anymore? I used to be so good at that. Anyway, I hope you're getting a sense of how this thing works. And we actually start the course looking at the crab, at our resistance, and asking, is there a gift in our resistance sometimes? We all want to get through it, but what if there's a message about things that it's time to let go of, or just stuff we don't need to do anymore? So I've called these four kind of archetypes the navigate, drift, matrix, because drift is another really undervalued navigational energy in our really frenetic society. And the quintessential drifter, I think, is the jellyfish, embodying this energy of surrender, almost something spiritual about that, I think. Surrender, kind of unpopular word in a way, but this idea that the 12-step people have of surrendering to a higher power, something bigger than ourselves, whatever your beliefs allow there. And that can be life-changing. And actually, the idea of letting go became the whole subject of my last book. Anyway, we tried out all of these archetypes on a kind of maiden voyage last year with the first cohorts of Second Wind, and people really loved them. We went really deep together, just sort of sharing our own experiences of midlife in this kind of confidential container of the group. That's not the only thing in the course. Also, I'm drawing on a really heady cocktail of influences just from my own explorations, really, and workshops and stuff over the years and courses I've done. But we've got like psychological models, some somatic theory, mindfulness, spiritual or philosophical traditions such as Taoism, Buddhism, as well as the sort of shamanic richness of these animal archetypes, which we kind of come back to, as I say, in this playful kind of way. Practically, we're blending recorded modules this time, which I'll be drip feeding to you each month. And then these are anchored with monthly live Zoom sessions where we kind of get to connect, support each other, keep ourselves accountable. And then an online community space where we can keep those conversations going between the modules. And in practice, last year's cohort made all kinds of shifts, psychological and literal. There were some really long delayed dreams rekindled, a book was started, somebody moved house, somebody even joined an alternative community. Lots going on, and just generally a sense of coming out as ourselves to people in our lives in a way that perhaps hadn't been possible before. Will it change your life? Perhaps. I'm always amazed by the power of a shared journey, and I'm really excited about this one. So just get in touch and let us know if it floats your boat. I'd love to have you on board. Okay, thank you.